Shiviti Adonai Lenegdi Tamid Ki mimini Balemot Lachen samach libi Vayagel kevodi Af besari Yishkon laveta Amen. I have set the eternal always before me. God is at my side, I shall not be moved. Therefore, does my heart exult and my soul rejoice. My being is secure. For you, God, will not abandon me to death, nor let your faithful ones see destruction. You show me the path of life. Your presence brings fullness of joy. Enduring happiness is your gift. Death has taken our beloved David Eric Rosenfeld. Our friends grieve in a darkened world. In their silence there is lamentation. In their tears there is loneliness. Lost in our sorrow, may we find the presence of loving friends. Hear them. Hear us, O God. For David's love that united us in life, and which death cannot sever. For his companionship that we shared along life's path, and which continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of his heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness, and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give our thanks to God. On behalf of Wendy, I read you her words, which she wrote in the middle of the night a few nights ago, and asked for me to deliver them. She calls it her love eulogy. It has been 75 hours, and yet I cannot exactly comprehend how it is that I am standing here today, saying goodbye to my beloved David. He is my heart and sole king of my world. David was one of the kindest, most caring and compassionate human beings ever to walk the face of this earth. Because of his genuine goodness, his ability to touch everyone he ever met was a gift that cannot be matched. The idea that he is no longer here to walk beside me through this journey is completely unbearable. He is my rock. Everything that I do, see, or touch will always remind me of him. Our lives were one. He was everything. Gorgeous inside and out. His brilliant mind was unmatchable. His ability to take care of our children and me, to keep me grounded, and to love me with all my flaws. He got me, and I got him to the core. He loved and was so proud and amazed by his Philip, Bennett, and Sage. Each so different, and yet all filled by so much of their wonderful Father. Everything that he did was for our children and for us. He never wanted anything more than to make a nice life for us and for me to be happy. He was so easy to love. My warrior of justice always gave so selflessly to all of us, as I know that each of you who personally knew him can attest. He was truly a mensch like no one else ever. Our love is one that cannot be duplicated. We walked through life together symbiotically. He got me, and I got him to the depths of our souls. He is my hero, and the thought of living the rest of my life without his love is unfathomable. Somehow, with the love of our 3 truly amazing children, I will. In the meantime, I stand here shattered into a million pieces. But with the love of my babies, family, and friends, I will try to somehow reconnect whatever pieces I can and to carry on in this world until I can be with my love again. I love you, my precious boy.
At moments of grief and despair, at times of tragedy and immeasurable loss, we turn beyond ourselves for comfort. We seek a sense of assurance that there is indeed some kind of meaning beyond the pain. The Psalms help us turn our spirits heavenward for that sense of meaning, for that sense of comfort. Psalm 121. Esa enai el heharim, me'ayin yavo Ezri, me'im Adonai, Ose shamayim va'aretz. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. From whence cometh my help? My help cometh from the Lord, maker of heaven and earth. Please join me in the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou hast prepared the presence of my enemies. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
This probably won't come as a surprise, but I really didn't want to begin writing this eulogy because it would mean that David is really gone. Even now, I keep walking through my house and the Rosenfeld's house, driving through the neighborhoods, scrolling through Facebook and emails, and the many and varied photos of that generally scruffy face. David had what I call the 10 a.m. shadow. And everything appears to be normal. A David normal, but still a crazy, urgent, intense race to get it all done normal. But for those peculiar, seemingly misplaced announcements about David's accident and passing, all indications otherwise would suggest anything but that David's soul has left us. It can't be, folks say, impossible to understand, to comprehend. How is it that David Rosenfeld, the one who could always save the day, even if and often into the wee hours of the morning, is gone forever? Achen yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh v'anochi lo yadati. Upon waking up from his vision of God, and a ladder set down upon the earth, reaching into the sky, filled with angels running up and then back down the ladder, up and then back down, Jacob declares, "Behold, God was in this place, but I didn't know." David did. David Eric Rosenfeld, David ben Tzvi, husband, father, son, friend, inventor and creator, cheerleader, mentor, and inspirer of the highest order, knew and understood that life was so precious that only angst and stress and an unwavering commitment to perfection were his appropriately intense reactions required in the face of our lives, the miracle of our lives. For the probability that each of us would ever be born the person we are is 10 to the 2,685,000th power. Each one of us. A miracle for just being born. And David understood this and responded instinctively. Perhaps that could serve as a tiny bit of redemption in the face of our overwhelming brokenness today. It's so much not enough. But maybe a bit solace can be taken from knowing that David lived more, did more, loved more, and created more in his far too short 47-year span of life than most could in 100. Yet, anyone who knew him well knows that while that blazing prophetic spirit burned from within, he was also a shepherd. David understood and lived in such a way that his flocks, of which he had so many, were well cared for. With staff in hand, David, like his kingly namesake, was loyal and devoted and caring like few people I have ever known. Anyone who had the privilege of finding himself under David's watchful gaze knows what it means to be protected. Now, I'm not at all suggesting that to be protected by David necessarily meant giggles and sunshine. To be protected by David was also to be demanded of as well. David was not in this life for the perks. He was here because there was business to take care of. Intense and so committed, David dedicated himself to the truth and the search for the truth. And I can tell you from personal experience that Natalie, Abraham, Samuel, and I are so truly humbled to have been the recipients of his efforts, of his tireless commitment to truth. He couldn't and wouldn't stand idly by as his brother bled. Tzedek, tzedek tirdof. Justice, justice, he did pursue. With the spirit of an ancient prophet, in his personal and professional worlds, he pursued what he believed was the right and the good. And you had better rise to the occasion, because this life required work and commitment. If you were on David's team, there was work to be done, and you better show up. That said, there are a few individuals who are the primary beneficiaries of every last effort David expended, and which they deserved just by being who they are: his wife and children. Wendy, Philip, Bennett, Sage. Our hearts have been breaking since Saturday morning, but not more than yours. David, Daddy was your superhero. His work sustained your livelihood. His dedication to you sustained your souls. His yearly personalized artwork was the first and most important gift you awaited when you woke up on your birthday. Wendy, yours and David's love for each other has its origins in a crazy summer way back in 1994 at the Reform Movement's summer camp, Camp Swig. As we all have retold so many times, that fateful summer not only brought together you and David and Natalie and John and me, and it wasn't only your cousin Daryl's and Anna's summer of love, but most importantly, The summer of '94 brought you to David, your cabin mate and your soulmate, just as John had foreseen. See, while we all go back a couple of decades, Wendy and John go back even farther. It wasn't completely unexpected then that John would think to reach out to Wendy to coax her into taking a job at Camp Swig. John knew, he really knew, that this was going to be a twofer. John, camp administrator, would get a stellar food service director in Wendy, and Wendy would meet her beshert. David was frankly not too thrilled about working at camp. And prior to meeting David, Wendy wasn't either. Knowing neither David nor Wendy had yet found their groove at Swig, Natalie asked David if he could do nothing else. Could he at least try to make the new cute kitchen manager happy here at camp? David looked at Natalie, and he'd already met Wendy. And he assured Natalie that he could do. And thus began his 21-year effort to bring Wendy joy and happiness and peace and love. And she, him, in return. Ever since, Wendy and David's home has been with each other, their hearts entwined forever. Their love brought into this world Philip, Bennett, and Sage, a his, a theirs, and a hers. Philip, we remarked yesterday, how in so many subtle and far less subtle ways you are the embodiment of your father. Your quick wit, as well as your daily propensity for stressing function over form, continue to impress and surprise. And just like your father, challenge your teachers and your future bosses. Sage, you are and will always be your daddy's little girl. There is nothing your daddy wouldn't do for you and did regularly. He only wanted you to be happy and comfortable. And Bennett, the love you shared with your dad of technology and equipment and parts. Oh, the love of parts. The potential that lays in every new piece of hardware bought, found, or given is a testament to your daddy's spirit of invention and imagination that runs through you. Like myself, before David hailed from Houston, David was a Valley boy. Not the Texas Valley, but the San Fernando Valley, as he attended Cal State Northridge for college. Growing up in Ventura by the beach, a little farther north, many of you may not be aware that David was a bit of a surfer long before the internet. There aren't a lot of Jewish surfers. I always loved that about him. In Ventura, David grew up with his father, Harry, his mother, Joan, may her memory be a blessing, and his brothers, Jeff and Michael. It was so beautiful to hear Jill, Chloe, and Tatum regale stories of the three brothers when they were together as adults. And to see Jen stepping in with such comfort, to offer such comfort for Wendy minutes after she arrived. All of you who came from California have brought such support and wholeness for these past few terribly difficult days. Chloe and Tatum, you commented how interested your Uncle David was in you and in the details of your lives. There are so many in this room, I am sure, who recognize and remember this about David. I loved hearing about your memories of your dad and uncles when they were together. Always a bit of a competition, whether muscle or mind or wit. For mother-in-law Sandy, a.k.a. Mommer, Aunt Joan, and siblings and cousins-in-law, Melissa, Josh, Simon, Rachel and Alexa, not to mention Carolyn and David Axelrod and the entire Axelrod clan. David was this larger-than-life, wonderful addition to your mishpacha. Just last week, at the funeral of another far too young adult in our community, Sandy mentioned that upon introducing David to someone who didn't know him, she called him her son-in-love. David was everybody's hero as he fixed problems, engaged at times in shuttle diplomacy, and brought the art of artful living to this family. There Houston would and will never be the same after he arrived. He was indeed their new son, brother, nephew, and uncle. Melissa, your acknowledgement of David as super dad was both heartwarming and heartbreaking. For David, the most important parts of life were always to be found in the details. His unique ability to dive headfirst into one project and mine more heart, soul, and meaning than one could ever have imagined was possible is the beauty we all loved about him. He saw the potential that others couldn't see, or what others grew tired of, looking for before that potential could come to fruition. Many of you are familiar with the crucial role David played in the creation of CSK. His vision, his imagery, his unique ability to give shape and form to what was but a dream for so many of us will stay with us always. About CSK's logo, he wrote, "It's made up of 6 translucent, brightly colored stars of David that overlay each other. It represents a multifaceted dynamic of the people who make up our CSK community. Looking closely, you can see 3D cubes in the middle, or maybe you'll see a star. Sort of like us, depending on how you look. You might see something different. In the end, it's all colorful, beautiful, and dynamic." And this was his non-paying job. The job that paid the bills for the last 11 years was as Vice President of Unleaded Communications. Anyone who had the fortune of meeting David at work saw that David was the cornerstone that held it all together. Rarely could he make it back to his desk without being pulled in 10 different directions by everyone who needed him. It was quite often that David would take a look at his next day and comment that he had at least 3 meetings scheduled at the same hour, several times a day. You, myself, anyone who worked with David knows that you either had to get out of the way or work as hard as you could to keep up. Perhaps David's ability to so deftly manage the many and varied needs always before him was due to what David Axelrod described as David's soul power. The way he laughed, the way he touched you, the way he listened and was present, you could feel his soul power emitting from his skin. And that was what was so tragically sad about Saturday. When entering the ICU unit where David's body lay on life support, you could notice the absence of that soul power was overwhelming. There were lots of us there all day trying to offer comfort and support in an impossible situation. It's not everyone who can truly be present with someone in those hours like Wendy had to endure. However, two of them were thankfully present in remarkable ways. It was an awesome sight to see Corey and Ricky, Wendy's cousins, express and provide strength and love and affection to Wendy and to David the way they did. Wendy, while Ricky and Corey have set a high bar, we say to you now, as your family and friends, you and your children are not alone. We are here. And we pledge as a community to provide you with all that you need. And though we will always be a poor substitute for David, I pray that we will be able to carry his legacy forward. For the work to which David committed his life is now left to us. Yesterday, 2 days ago, Wendy explained that David had no agenda in life other than to show compassion and to be driven and passionate in his pursuits and his loves. I would suggest that this was precisely David's agenda. And now, it is ours. Let's get to work. Would you all please rise for the memorial prayer? Im kedoshim utarim kezoar harakia mazhirim et nishmat David ben Zvi שהלך לעולמו בעל הרחמים יסתרהו בסתר כנפיו לעולמים ויצרור ביצור החיים את נשמתו אדוני הוא נחלתו וינוח בשלום על משכבו ונאמר Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to David, Eric, Rosenfeld, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence. And let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. And let us all say, Amen. Rabbi Gross has a few announcements, and then he will be followed by Sid Waldman of Waldman Funeral Care. I just want to say briefly special thanks to Sid and his team for responding so quickly and for managing such a series of difficult circumstances.
From here, we will be proceeding to the cemetery, the Emmanuel Memorial Gardens. And then following the cemetery, for those who wish, we'll be hosting at our congregation, at Houston Congregation for Reformed Judaism, a minyan and lunch. I guess it's kind of in the spirit of your congregation that we're all come together to support you in this time. And in continuing in that spirit of communal help, on behalf of Sid Waldman, he expresses his gratitude for Jeff Friedman, who opened their facility for the overnight preparation of everything as Waldman Funeral Care was completely out of power. The storm hit hard. As we proceed now, invite Sid to the pulpit for directions.
Thank you all for coming and to honor our dear friend David. Would the pallbearers please come forward, and you're going to help us take David to Emmanuel Memorial. Thank you.